All right, so in this section of the video, we're going to talk about the actual project requirements for 2.3.4, and I'm just going to skip down to question 16 because that's really where you're doing all your work. So what's going to happen is there are three capture files, some PCAP files that contain Wireshark data that's already been collected, and we're going to be doing some investigations. So we got some hints here which we can refer to, but for right now, let's just open the first PCAP file. So the PCAP files are in the activities folder, project 2, 3, 4 files, and we'll just open the first one. So this is saved network data, so it's not live, it was saved in the past. And we're suspecting an unauthorized hacker has broken into one of your Bank of Virgil guestbook web pages and used their script to show user cookie data. So one thing we want to do here is apply the filter that we had from before. So I'm going to limit it down to HTTP content type 172.30.0.13. So that way we don't have to look at much information. And we know that there's supposed to be a script in one of the packets. Now, it's supposed to have something to do with cookie data, so that makes me think if I do edit find packet, go by string, go by packet details, and type in cookie, maybe something will pop up. So I hit find, and this is the first packet that shows up. Now the problem is you can see that this has nothing to do with actually a hack. That just says the word cookie in it. And so if I keep hitting find, we'll see if we get something better here. Now this one looks interesting. We've got a guestbook comment here. Uh-oh. I see something with a script tag in the comments. You can see it says window.document.write document.cookie. So this is the command, this is the packet that is showing that there is a XSS exploit being in effect here. So we have found the Wireshark data that shows the suspicious packet. Now, what we're going to do now is look at what we could have done to fix this problem in the CTS website. So if we go to XSS stored, and if we go to view source, remember we did this before, this is what it's currently doing for the message. We compared it to the high security script. They had this extra command here, and that's the command that would have prevented the exploit. The other thing that we should answer about this exploit is sort of what information has been compromised. So if you're able to print out someone's cookies, that means you're able to get information about where they've been, site settings that people may not want other people to know. So this could provide hackers access to someone's personal information. Now this one's pretty it's not going to be really useful for a hacker, but this is an example of one that they could try to use. We found it by searching for the word cookie. You could have also probably found it by looking for other things like document.write might have been another thing to search for, but we used the find tool at least in this video. And I didn't run into any difficulties, it didn't provide any hints. Here is the hint that we were given. They wanted us to apply this filter. I guess we didn't have to filter by IP source as well, but I did. And then, yeah, so we could have searched through the website, but we didn't have to. All right, so that's pCapture 1. So I'm going to close out of Wireshark, and I'm going to open up the second PCAP file, which is capture 2. All right, so we are suspecting that an attack on your Bank of Virgil and unauthorized access has been discovered. Uh-oh. So that makes us think that there's probably some invalid logins, and you can maybe scroll through here if you want to, just to kind of get an idea in the info if there's anything that stands out. Sometimes things will jump out at you. Often there's just too much to look at. Just kind of scrolling through lots of packets, just kind of overwhelming. All right, so nothing kind of is obvious, just lots of things. So let's click on the hint this time to see if we have any suggestions. So once again, they want us to apply the filter, so I'll do that again. I'll do the whole thing again. All right, so now we have less packets to look at, so hopefully that'll be a big help to begin with. And then I'm just kind of scrolling through here, see some things about security, hoping something about what's that? That's interesting. Some SQL stuff are running. We might want to investigate that. Let's see what else is going on here. So browse the Bank of Virtual page that accesses the database. Search for an existing phrase on that page. Oh, this is interesting. So we think this one, if they're accessing the database with unauthorized access, we might be able to look for some database commands in here. So either we kind of look at these SQL ones because those look useful. So maybe click on this one, kind of expand it. No, nothing in there. Or here's sort of my favorite way to attack this problem. If we do find packet, I'm going to do string again, and then I'm going to put in packet details. I'm going to look for something that shows up in a lot of database commands. So some commands that show up are like select, insert, table. I'm going to look for the select command, and I want to see if that brought up anything that looks good here. And lo and behold, I don't know if you see right here, it says and 1 equals 0 union select, and then a whole bunch of stuff. Null, concat password from users. Uh-oh. If you remember from earlier in the unit, this is what's called an SQL injection. So this is an attempt to try to capture the password. Now, whether or not it was successful or not, we don't know, but that's the command that's attempting to do an SQL injection. And the data they're trying to get, it looks like, is they're trying to get the user and password information. So that's bad from the user's table. So how I found this one was I did a search for some MySQL tags or keywords that are used in SQL queries a lot. So how else could you have come up with that? So if we go to SQL injection, which they're sort of hinting that you want to look at, so they have sort of like these links here to different things about SQL. So if I click on one of them, oh geez, none of those work, really? Crud. So if you look up outside, just do SQL commands. So there's a whole bunch of examples that you could find here, like select from. Here's the most common SQL commands. So those would be ones to look for if you're trying to find someone doing like an SQL injection. All right, so we've kind of documented the packet that had the SQL injection in it. If we go to view source, here is what the website has currently. So whatever someone puts in as their ID number, they do this SQL query, and so they do not sanitize the ID to make sure that it's not something else. So let's compare it to what high security does. You can see after they get the ID, they do something called strip slashes. They then do something called MySQL real escape string, and then they write this if to make sure the ID is numeric. So there's a lot of lines of code here that helps make sure that there's not an SQL injection exploit. So we've information that's compromised. It was users and passwords. How do we find the exploit? We searched for SQL commands, and then I'm not sure we had a lot of difficulties. But one thing we should also say is the information that was we said that the users and passwords were compromised. Okay, so I looked at the hint, but I'm not sure we really needed it. All right, so that's the second PCAP file. Let's look at the third PCAP file. So I'm going to close out of Wireshark again, and then go to Activities, P234. I think I have this open already, and do Capture 3. So my guess is, again, we're going to want to apply the same filter. So HTTP content type, and I'm going to limit the IP as well. We suspect an unauthorized hacker is exploiting the Bank of Virgin command execution tool to snoop on critical systems. So I'm going to go over to the command execution part. And we know that the thing that's exploitable is they could type something in after ping. So let's kind of scroll down here and look for anybody who's using that specific site. And the site was, once again, vulnerability/exe. So let's see if that pops up here as in one of the things in info. Oh, it says vulnerabilities brute. That looks interesting. So remember that. Let's see, is there... Wait, oh, I was going the wrong way there. That's why I was scrolling weird. Let's see, is it popping up? Ooh, I just saw it. Vulnerabilities exe. Okay, so there may not be anything in the there's not going to be anything probably in the HTTP hypertext transfer protocol one. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Let me find the one I want. This one, I think. Yeah, because this has the form data. So if I expand that, you can see that they're just submitting the IP address. So that one's not a security issue. But if I go down to here and click on it, you can see this time, oh, they're not just sending an IP address, they're sending it with the cat command followed by a weird path. This is a place on a Linux machine that has some impact on how the kernel functions. But we've essentially found what we were looking for. This was the packet 214 has the exploit in it. So once again, if we go to view source, this is what they're currently doing. Whatever the IP address is, they just put it right into the ping command. But in high security, it would go through the whole strip slashes, explode, make sure it's a number, rebuild the IP address, and that would avoid the exploit. So once again, the information that could be compromised, the hacker can find out system information by running that command execution. We found the exploit by realizing that what we thought was exploited was this specific website. So we found a packet that was visiting that website, and then we looked inside the form data to see if anything fishy was being submitted, and we did find it. And then I guess we had some difficulties like figuring out what to look for, but we eventually realized an easy way to find our information. All right, and that's the end of Project 234.